Hello viewers, welcome to another exciting episode of Real Talk with Millie. My mission is to continue to keep you engaged, entertained, educated, inspired, and to nudge you to achieve your dreams. Thanks for watching and thanks for sharing, and I love all your comments. Thank you very much. Remember last episode, I said to you that this episode I'm going to be bringing someone that will speak to us about entrepreneurship. This speaker has a busy lifestyle but is able to multitask. I want you to key into this moment and it will change your life. My me moments, I'm wearing my kinky braids and I'm absolutely loving it. My makeup is by Mimi Ren. Thanks, Mimi. And finally, I'm wearing another outfit from Shakara. So if you watched last episode, you already know who made Shakara, who the designer behind or the brain behind Shakara is. It's Oyix Alfred. And do you know what? I'm on set again with Oyix. So Shakara, the brain behind Shakara, Oyix Alfred.
Yeah, drum roll moment.
Oh, thank you, Oyix. Thanks for coming again to this show.
Always a pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So Oyix, I've invited you here on this show because a lot of viewers are complaining or people struggle with the fact that they've got a 9-to-5, they've got a family to manage, but they've got dreams, they've got aspiration, and they're wondering, how do I align this? And I thought, who else can I feature that I know has done it successfully? So if I'm going to write your biography, I would say, you're a lover of people, you're a mother, you're an entrepreneur, you see business opportunities, you go for them. And sometimes I'm just wondering, in all humility, have I described you properly?
Well, yes, by and large. I love the word of God. I do love people. Yes, I see business opportunities and then I go for it, and hardworking and all of that. Yes.
Fantastic.
By and large, you've summarized it in a few words.
I think viewers, one of the reasons why I have actually featured Oyix is that she's got a lovely business model, and hopefully she'll expand on it for us. Apart from the ones she runs personally, one of the things she does is that she identifies capable people, or she sees potential in people and she identifies them. She builds that business and then she gives it to them to run. But I'm saying this from our interaction, but I would like you to throw more light in terms of explaining that business model to people.
Okay, so basically I actually have two business models in terms of entrepreneurship. So the first one is the self-driven business model, which there's an idea, I'm inspired, I see business opportunity, I go for it, I start the business, I run it myself. The other business model, which is not very popular, is when I see a business opportunity and I see people who I think they have the potential of that business, but they don't realize they have the capital to do it. And so I take them on that journey. I start the business, I build the business, and then I hand it over to them to run and grow. And it's autonomous, it's their business, it's their name, everything is just about them. So I can supervise, if I'm called in.
When you say you've got two business models, I would like us to bring it to life. Give me an example of one, the first model you used where you build that business and you run it yourself. Give me a good example.
I started a company called NGAP, but the project was focused basically on campus and in the secondary schools. Yes, so we have an NGAP club that runs in the school, so students are co-opted in it and they are taught, a little bit like what you have called the Girls Guide. Okay. So I started that with a young lady who wasn't doing anything at the time. She was single at the time, so we started working on a project together. When I saw that she had gotten a grasp of it, I'd used all my influence, all the people that I know, and all of that helped her. We built it, got it to a point, and then I withdrew, and she continued running the business today. Yes, we have the NGAP club system. Yes.
Okay, so that's the model where you built it and you gave it to someone to run.
And runs it autonomously, yes.
And how successful has that
It's been very successful.
So what do they do? Sorry, I know you use Girls Guide, but what does NGAP do in terms of club in school?
Okay, so basically what NGAP does is we go into the schools and students who are willing to be trained morally, spiritually, in terms of skill, in terms of entrepreneurship and all of that, they are trained, they get involved in a club, they are trained, after school, and all that. They learn quite a bit, so they're a bit more what's that word now? They are a bit more relevant than the regular student who just goes to school and gets his
Fantastic.
classes.
So you're saying to me that in school,
Yes.
people begin to learn life skills.
Exactly.
So while they're learning whatever it is that they're learning in school, they're also learning life skills.
Yes.
That's what NGAP Club does.
Yes.
Wow.
And the discipline also that usually we expect from somebody who has graduated and is working. So that those disciplines
you
are
build
there.
it right on time.
So you learn that you come out from school, you do your homework. Of course, you respect your parents. You do all of that. You come out, and then you must have a skill. You must either know how to do this, that, just a basic skill.
So who helps the them run it? Do you have like trained people?
Yes, yes. So
fantastic.
what we've done is the lady in charge, she goes to the school, signs students up, and they begin to run with the approval of their parents. We have to have your signature.
Do you know what? I think this is fantastic. It resonates a bit with what they have called the job center in the UK, where when you come out of maybe you're out of school and you're looking for a job, you go to the job center and they help build up those skills that you need to get into job. But what I hear you say is that while they're still in school, you're building those skills.
From JS1, from 11, 12.
Fantastic.
People are learning how to bake cakes. They are learning moral skills. They are learning the discipline of hard work. They are learning the discipline of consistency. And the beautiful thing is that they finish from secondary school, they get into university. Those traits are still in them, and you're taught to be, to excel academically. You cannot be found wanting in any area.
So it's balanced.
Yes, very balanced. So we teach you that life is divided into sections. Yes. So the 0 to 25 is called the investment section. That is where you invest in yourself. It is not a time to play, to waste your time. It's called the accumulation period, where you begin to accumulate skill, knowledge, experience. That's what you do between 0 to 25. You can experiment with, okay, maybe I should be a doctor. Oh, okay, I've decided to be a lawyer, because you have age and time on your hands. From 25 to 40, you can't experiment as much, because at this stage now you're coming into stability. So you want to know, okay, this is the path I want to take. From 25 to 40, you should have known the path that your life is tending towards. So 0 to 25, you're accumulating knowledge skills. So those students are taught at that early phase.
I love this. I totally love it. Totally love it.
So I also mentioned the digital mobile studio. It's also a business we've run, handed over to someone. Digital mobile studio, basically we have these headsets that are it's an online studio where students are not listening to the wrong thing, or people are not listening to the wrong thing. So we give them preloaded headset that has messages that are empowering. So we want you to constantly hear the right thing, because we understand that if you hear the right thing, you produce the right result. So that's another business started, handed over to someone who's doing extremely well and making very good money and touching lives through that business.
And people are enrolling.
Oh yes. So we're like getting those products.
So it's positive, and you're
it's
trying
very
to
positive.
So I think it answers. Remember the last episode you spoke about what the media was doing. So this is counter.
Yes, this is countering.
And you're putting a positive.
Yeah. So people are hearing the right things. So we're getting, and we're trying to source the materials locally, and also getting at the cheapest cost and all of that. So the young lady manager is doing very well right now. She's probably doing a lot better than I would have.
but that's it. But tell me. So I'm going to ask you about an example of one that you. I would ask you specifically NGAP, because I know that is one of your thriving business.
Yes,
Can you tell us a bit about how that runs? How did it start, and where is it at?
NGAP, the full NGAP consulting. Remember we talked about NGAP Club? So we have NGAP consulting. So basically NGAP started with just an idea. I was living in Abuja at the time. And so one day I was actually praying, and it just dropped in my spirit that, Abuja people are very busy and they don't have time to do anything. So why don't you start an errand service? Meaning that you can do anything. Just tell people, what do you want? Do you want someone to go to the market? Do you want someone to cook? Do you want someone to make your hair? Whatever, you can do it. So what you do is get all the people that can do things, and then put the word out there. Whatever you want me to do, I will do. So you're like a middle person. So what I would do is, for instance, you could call and say, I need stew. Can you make stew or whatever? I'll say, yes, I'll look on my list and find out who can do that. So
you're meeting those needs.
I was connecting and collecting a tidy sum of 5,000 naira per month, which was good. So if I have, this was way back 2006 or thereabout. So after some time, I observed that 99% of the calls, people were asking me, can you get me a driver? Can you get me a cook? Can you get me house help? And even other needs that what they were asking for was still tied to getting a house. Like, for instance, someone say, "Can you help me cook soup?" Is still a help. So I now said, instead of doing like everything, why don't I focus on the need? Because I realized there is a need. So people actually need nannies and caregivers. So I decided to focus on it. And so we started the consulting firm where we're getting help for these people. However, I didn't want the help to be treated badly. So I call them caregivers, and then I'll get this help, and then I will train them and all. Train them, putting them the right skill, then putting the role model in front. That if you do these things well, because I've seen people who started as nannies, caregivers, and today they are living abroad, they are doing very well. So, put this in front of them and all that. So you see that the caregivers we're given were very good, they were trained, and they had basic etiquette, basic skills. So thankfully we started getting help for pretty high up people who could afford to pay a lot more, because we're training this. We're not just taking them off the village and handing them over to you. And that was how it started. And then from there, people started demanding for corporate staff. Could you get me a secretary? Do we have this? And that's how we scaled up and now began to get staff for proper organizations. And then we made the third transition. I'm sure you've noticed the first transition, the second.
Yeah.
We made the third transition where I would have clients come in and say, we need a particular kind of staff. And then for 2 months, we're not able to fill those openings. And we'll have thousands of CVs. And then I was sitting one day, I was thinking to myself, yeah, there's something wrong. And then it dawned on me, the problem is not unemployment. The problem is unemployability, meaning that a lot of the people looking for jobs are not qualified for those jobs. You have gone to school, you have a paper degree, but you're not equipped to get that job. And that's because, number one, if I look at the Nigerian or African scenario, I'll quickly tell you that a lot of students read to pass. They don't read to know. So they cram their notebook. So they pour everything from their head onto their notebook. The moment they finish the exam, their brains are empty, but the paper has an A1.
Correct.
So papers have A1, the brains do not have A1. Number two, curricula is not relevant, it's not contemporary to what is going on. So somebody is just learning theory that has nothing to do with the marketplace. So these students are not equipped to face the issues in the marketplace. And then again, it's not the curricula is not updated. So if I take my father's notes, he went to school maybe in 1960, and I take his notebook, and so I'm in 2000. It will be exactly the same thing. The same lecturer, the same course outline, the same syllabus. But the world has changed and moved beyond that.
What I hear you say, Weeks, in what you've outlined, I'm going to go back again to the fact that you said you've got the NGAP club that upskills people while in school. I think that is fantastic. And if we're able to do that across schools, then when we're graduating students, which has been an issue, we graduating students are ready for the job market, which then meets the next issue that you talked about on employability.
Exactly.
So they've got the paper degree, but they're not ready to go into a job. So, second one that I love that you spoke about is the fact that in Africa, maybe here they'll call it nannies and they're treated with respect. In Africa, it's a bit different. They're called house helps, and because of that name or just history, they're treated with a bit of disrespect. So I like the fact that you changed the name to caregivers. I like the fact that you're training these caregivers now, so that when they go into those homes, there's a bigger expectation. They comport themselves. And it has, I think that is very key in terms of how you go into work. If you don't have respect and self-value for yourself or bring value, then you'll be treated less. So I love that. Another thing that I love that you mentioned is the fact that when you started your business, you started on the basic level. You wanted to get...
It was just an errand service.
Errand service.
Meeting everybody's needs.
But as you go, you look into the market and you see what are the needs. You upscale. Fantastic. And this is how you grow business. You start small, but you must have a vision to grow large. You start small, you look at the market, and you have to be able to adapt to what the market is saying. I think you mentioned something again about our father's notes. Oh my God. I was thinking of mentioning one of my lecturers when I was in university. I'm gonna talk about it, but no names. The same notes. So he had the notes in his head. He will come into class and he'll be able to dictate it. It's genius, that he can dictate it. But what's the relevance? And this is one of the things that I think Africa should start to look at. We have to move with the change. Do you understand? And it's not the fact that you learn something in school and you think it's transferable. No, there's a gap there. You know, you learn, but there's another skill in terms of being able to carry it out in the marketplace. But today we're talking about entrepreneurship, and the concept cannot live. There are two models that you have introduced. One, you start a business, you want to build on your own, which is the NGAP example.
NGAP, Shakara is another example.
Because you told me you're the creative designer. You actually sit down.
Yeah, I sit down. I love that part.
You do. Exactly. Because why? You love to look good. And because of that, and you want people to look good.
Yeah, and I wanted decent dressing, you know, because you go to stores and all you see very short clothes, very tight clothes, very revealing clothes and all of that. It was difficult for me to basically make a purchase every time. So I decided, you're good with design, you know, you have an eye for what's good, so why don't you just create your own designs and then let it have an African feel, an African flavor. Fantastic. You know. So I started to get fabric and sit down with my team, and then we have our design meetings. We'll swatch fabrics together and decide, okay, what should we do here, how do we do with the color and all of that. So that's then we have our tailors and they produce this fabric, but it all has an African flavor, because the Western culture, the Western dressing kind of has overshadowed the African dressing and all of that, and our fabrics and our things are looked down on. So I thought, you know, why don't you do something that has an African flavor? And I found out that people all over are actually looking for African themed things, ethnic things, and you can use it to make any sort of fabric. Fantastic, right now. So
fantastic. Now, your second business model, I love, actually, not like. Do you know why I like it? It's the fact that you're not thinking of just yourself. You're thinking, you see someone that's got potential, you build and you give. That's what we need to start to do in Africa. You can't begin to always build just a business for yourself, under your name, under your hospice. You need to empower people, and that's what we're talking about. So you build, you give it to someone, the person can run with it. You can oversee, you can keep directing.
Yeah.
And that's the way we will grow our economy. That's the way we're going to grow our people. It's not just one size fits all. So I'm going to go on a quick break, because we need to go on a break, but we'll be right back. And when we come back, there's something Pastor X shared to me. She calls it KIV. I won't tell you what it is. If you stay tuned, you will hear. And also, Africa is a land full of opportunities, but a lot of chaos. And you will tell our viewers how you've been able to thrive. Do you want to miss that? No. Stay tuned.
That was good.
Whenever you're ready, whenever you're ready, whenever you're ready, whenever you're ready. Can we surrender? Can we surrender? I surrender.
Thank you for staying with us. If you're like me, I'm curious. I've been wondering, what's KIV? Or did you Google it? Now, Pastor X. Share with us again when you told me about ideas that should be KIV. And what is KIV?
Oh, okay. So KIV is pretty simple. It means keep in view. Not every idea is to be pursued at this time, because yes, the idea has come, but a lot of times you might not have the capacity, you might not have the capital, and I would explain what capital means. You don't have the capacity, you don't have the capital to be able to run that project at that particular time. Sometimes you also don't have the skill bank to run the project at the time. So what do? You keep the paper, and then you just keep living from day to day until you're ready to pull up that project. The danger of not doing that is that sometimes you have an idea, you're inspired, you just run off, because passion is not enough. So you just quickly run off and you start the idea, and then somewhere along the line you meet different roadblocks and you're completely discouraged, and you say, oh, it doesn't work, and then you get depressed and you push those ideas aside. No, you don't push them aside. You have to realize this one is a KIV, because I like to do it, but I am not equipped to do it at this time. You never give up on your dreams. However, not all your dreams are born for a time like this. So you need to be able to scale and understand.
You know what this will fit into.
Yeah.
I think what I will add in KIV is that while you're KIV in it, either you have left it in a box or a portfolio, you can keep building on it. As you go every day, your
Building your
experiences, you can
skills.
keep adding
Yes.
and building. When is the right moment? You will know. You will know. But I think it's important to know that this is one of the ones that you need to keep in view. And the
Or
idea is, when you say KIV,
keep in view.
keep it in
Keep
view.
it in view.
Keep it in view. So you're not dumping it. You're just leaving it and you're looking at it. And sometimes, I don't know if it happens to you, you go to bed and an idea, a concept develops, and you go there, you add onto it, and you keep on building.
Yeah, you keep on building, and then you learn to upskill and downscale. A lot of ideas are very futuristic, but you can start with part one. I want to open a pencil factory. Start with just, buying and selling pencils, where you know where you're going to. So you do the KIV for the opening the pencil factory. But what am I doing like today, right now? So I did mention you don't have the capital, because a lot of times people want to start business, and they say, I do not have the capital. I beg to differ.
Tell me.
Because once you say capital, everybody's mind goes to financial capital. Financial capital is the least kind of capital you need to start a business or anything in life. I learned that very early, and it has helped me to become the person I am today. Financial capital is just one. There are 12 types of capital that are very powerful. If you have financial capital only and you don't have the remaining types of capital, you will fail. That's why they give people $10 million,
Tell me
$10
what the
million
capital
naira to
is.
start.
I want to hear
I don't
them.
know.
Give me the 10 capitals. What are
Hey.
give us two. Give us some tips at least. So we know financial capital. That's where we always anchor. What other capital would I be looking at?
There's reputation capital. There's social capital. For instance, when I started my business, let's pull Shakara for instance. The first people that bought from me were people that bought from them for my social network. They bought, even if they didn't like the outfit, because it was me selling. They would say, okay, let me patronize you. They will buy. By the time they buy one, number one, I'm encouraged. Number two, their friend will sit and say, where did you get it? I got it from this person. And then the circle just keeps increasing. It's called social capital. Reputation capital is worth a lot of money. In fact, the Bible says that a good name is better than ruby. So when you weigh, reputation means that who are you? You have a reputation, you're reliable. You have a reputation that if I say this fabric will not wash, it will not wash. When you're a criminal, you've been lying, you've been stealing, you don't want to do business, who is going to patronize you? And it's a small world. People know you. So I see young people who go post naked pictures of themselves on Facebook. 5 years down the line, the internet never forgets.
It doesn't delete.
I might forget, you might forget it. They will pull it up one day. Then you have skill capital. It's a capital. Meaning what? What can you do with your hands? You have knowledge capital. What do you know? What is your vision? Vision is a capital. You know that time is another capital. As in, what are you doing with your
Are you going to
time?
give us the 10? I think you should save some.
I will save some.
Save
So if you come to
you need to consult with. Which company are we going to consult in if you wanted to consult with you on business?
NGAP.
NGAP will be the one to consult.
Yes.
Now, while you were speaking, I was thinking about one thing. Talk about the diversity of your network. The diversity of your network is very important. It's just not you and I. It keeps increasing.
Yes.
I've met somebody through you yesterday. You meet someone through me. And we keep building. And that is a capital. that
Yes.
we're talking
Yes.
about.
Social
But I
capital.
love the reputation one. You think you will cheat someone today
get
and
moved
tomorrow
tomorrow.
the story will change. No, it
People
goes with you.
know people.
However, there's a chance to build up that reputation to say, look, I made a mistake, but I am willing to change. Go back and engage. Don't think it will just wipe off. So you need to invest in all this capital. Thank you very much. Now, let me ask you another important question because we're running out of time. Africa, and I'd like to use Africa. I don't want to narrow it down to Nigeria because I know that we need to look at the larger continent, and that's what I portray. Yeah? There's a huge opportunity. They've said to, it's been in the news, all the financial or the capable hands have said Africa is an emerging market. We're still emerging. As much as there's lots of opportunity, there's also lots of challenges. And I'll use Nigeria now. No lights, no water, no roads, no infrastructure. But you have been able to thrive in this. And that's why I'm asking you this question, yeah? Because I don't know how you do it. Now, if someone in the diaspora wants to move back to Nigeria with resources, but is scared, and they want to invest with all the ideas, they've got all the human capital, they've got the reputation, how can they do this and do it successfully?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're coming from diaspora, first thing you need to look for is a landing pad, which is a person to work with. You cannot do business online if you're dealing with Africa. You have to have someone on ground or an organization on ground. I think there are a couple of organizations like that that are helping people in diaspora to come and settle in, so that you're not cheated, and you also understand what the dynamics are, because a lot of times you don't really understand the African story. You want to take the business model you run here in the UK and put it in Lagos, it will not work, you know. So you need to have a landing part. So I would say look for someone to partner with and grow from there. You can partner for 2-3 years and then you can now split if you like, but if not, I would encourage that you go with that partnership, and that what will work. You can't just come from South Africa and start working in Nigeria, or from Nigeria and work in the UK without having someone or something on ground. And then please do your background work, study, research. I can't say that enough.
No. So let me use Shakara, because it's your latest one, and I know that if you're designing, you need power, you need labor, and we've said that our labor market is unemployable or unemployability, as we've spoken about, and there's no land. How do you manage? So if I want to then plug in and I wanted to partner with you, what are the things that I should be looking at?
Yeah, in terms of working, doing your
No,
business,
just
like the
the
infrastructure. Yeah. Well, to be honest, it's difficult because, like you said, no light, all of that. But people are thriving. That's another. That's why I say KIB. You might want to begin to accumulate resources gradually. That extra pair of shoes, keep it. Save that 1,000 naira. That extra hairdo, save it. You don't have to have a weave of 50,000. Save it for your future. The money that you have is not yours to spend all. So let's say I have £1,000 today. It's not for me to spend. A percentage of it is for me to spend. A percentage is to invest in my future. As you put those funds together, you're able to afford, you know, the infrastructure that will help you with maybe alternative power supply and all of that. You see that I mean, I've always wanted to design, you know, for a long time, but I wasn't able to do it because it was a KIV moment. I didn't exactly have the time and all of that. So I had to wait for the right moment. While waiting for the right moment, what are you doing? Put monies together little by little. So
what's that money for? So if
invest.
To invest. So you're saying, let's take for light. How can I overcome the light situation in Nigeria? And I need to be able to run my machines.
Two things. One, you can partner with someone who already has a constant light source. We have alternative power supply, like in Nigeria. People now tilt towards inverters, solar panels, and co. So a group of 10 of us can come together, pay for an inverter, and then we're working with it. As I said, you need resources, because you're not going to do it free for me. So I'll contribute 1,000 naira of my saved money. You contribute 5,000, and all that. There is alternative power supply, and more are coming up.
So what you're saying is those challenges exist, but there are now ways that you can counter it, and one of the easiest one is collaboration,
partnership, yes. And then, like I said, very important, save up for your investment. Don't depend on bank loan. Save up. All the money that comes into your hand is not for you to spend. When you spend all, you're eating your future. So preserve, conserve. All the business I wanted to do, I didn't get a bank loan, just savings, investment, things I have built over the years. So when it was time, I just said, okay, I have this funds pooled somewhere, and I pull it off. When I started NGAP, I didn't need financial capital. I needed reputation capital. I needed people to say, oh, I know her. She's trustworthy. Oh, you know. So I needed reputation capital. I needed social capital.
So transfer all that to the next business. Do you know what? We can keep going, and we're going to continue talking about this offline, but we have to go. Oh, thank you so much for coming.
Always a pleasure.
This, my dear, thank you. The reason why I asked Oyeks to give us the names is so you can actually check and see that they are live examples of things that work. You can be an entrepreneur. You can achieve your dreams. You can follow your passion. And there is no excuse in terms of what the challenges are. Turn those challenges back to things that you can use to your success. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have taken tips that you can actually translate to success. There are challenges, there will always be challenges, but there is a way to mitigate against them. We've shared real life examples. So my hope and my wish for you is that you keep thriving and keep winning. You can be the next biggest entrepreneur anywhere you are. Thank you so much. Keep watching, keep sharing, and don't forget to try Shakara City. Don't you like what I'm wearing? Thank you.